Bruce Rivers, he's the criminal lawyer. But who is he? Bruce Rivers, he's the criminal lawyer. And who is he? Bruce Rivers, he's the criminal lawyer. And what he do? And he's gonna react to all the self-snitching.
Hi, this is Bruce Rivers. Welcome to another episode of Criminal Lawyer Reacts. I'm Bruce Rivers, board-certified criminal defense lawyers, where, like I said before, I don't just hold your hand. I don't write passports to the prison system. I actually go to trial and win. Here's the thing. Now, today we're reacting to what's next. A step for Amber Heard would be to appeal the judgment. And she's indicated that she's going to appeal. And here's how this works. You can't just all of a sudden, get an award and then just appeal as a matter of course. Well, you can, but she has to put up a bond in the amount of the judgment plus attorney's fees. And that's going to be a very significant bond. And I'm not sure if her homeowner's insurance would do that for her or not. I doubt it. But it'd be very expensive because in this case it'd be what would it be? Like a $8 million verdict, basically. It'd be $8.3 million. So you remember, let's just kind of recap what happened. They had the trial, and Amber Heard was awarded $2 million in damages. Johnny Depp was awarded $15 million in damages. In Virginia, the cap on punitive damages, which in his case was $5 million, is reduced down to $350,000. So his ultimate judgment is $10,350,000. That's reduced by what she was awarded, $2 million. So it's $8.3 million basically. So that is what's appealable. Now, I don't know that. I mean, in all reality, I don't think it's smart to appeal. Let's say she won the appeal. And let's say they had to retry this. I don't know that her insurance company will indemnify her again for another $6 million, for all this, because she's probably capped out on her coverage. Let's just kind of break this down a little bit. What is an appeal? An appeal is, basically you're telling a court of appeals, look at what happened at the trial level and fix the mistakes that happen, okay? Now, various things can happen on appeal. They could appeal the judgment, you do appeal the judgment, but you could appeal the award, the amount of money that was awarded, saying it was unjust. It's a little like appealing the sentence, or you can appeal the actual judgment itself, saying that it was an unfair trial. And let's say the Court of Appeals reverses the judgment and orders a new trial, which they're not going to do in a case like this. But let's say they did it. Where does that leave Amber Heard? That leaves Amber Heard right at square one, facing this trial all over again. And my understanding is that her homeowners covered the Travelers, because Travelers had somebody in the courtroom, and they covered her legal expenses. Now, those aren't unlimited. You have a cap of what they will actually cover, and I don't know what her cap is, but suffice it to say that does she really want just a new trial all over again? And how hard is Johnny Depp really going to go after her to collect the judgment? I bet he doesn't go hard on her at all to collect this judgment. But so what can you appeal? You can appeal mistakes that the judge made. And you can kind of tell by looking at Elaine's interviews that she did with the Today Show and CBS. And so let's look at some of that, and it gives you kind of some insight as to what they believe she's going to appeal.
Well, knowing the case and knowing the law, as you certainly do, it favors defendants like Amber Heard. Are you stunned that the jury essentially rejected her story?
Well, really what happened here is it's a tale of two trials. Johnny Depp brought a suit in the UK for the same case, and the burden of proof was easier for him there. The son had to actually prove that it was true, and the court found there we had an enormous amount of evidence that was suppressed in this case that was in the UK case against Amber. So what did Depp's team learn from this? Demonize Amber and suppress the evidence. We had an enormous amount of evidence that was suppressed in this case that was...
So she just said they've had an enormous amount of evidence that was suppressed in this case. That's an evidentiary ruling that and that would be something the Court of Appeals would look at. However, when you look at the evidence that was suppressed, you have to look at whether or not, number one, that would make a difference. If you allowed that evidence, would that have made a difference to the jury, number one? Number two, you also have to look at whether the judge abused her own discretion. Did the judge abuse any kind of discretion she has? Because the judge has an abundance of discretion when it comes to making evidentiary rulings. You got to stay within the rules, but those evidentiary rulings are something that the judge has a really broad discretion on.
In the UK case. In the UK case, when it came in, Amber won, Mr. Depp lost.
But here's the thing.
So she's talking about the UK case, which is a totally different case. It's a totally different set of laws. You've got one finder of fact, and that's the judge in that case. And Amber was not a party in that case. They couldn't cross-examine. Well, they did a deposition of Amber in that case, but it wasn't so detailed because she didn't testify in that trial.
Here's the thing. You were able to get some evidence that you say demonstrated abuse. You certainly had her testimony. There were pictures, documents, all kinds of evidence. But in point of fact, the jury rejected it.
That's an excellent point. Here's the thing. The judge was pretty liberal in what she allowed both sides to present when it came to abuse. I don't think she was hamstrung at all.
You argued in your closing arguments that if they found even one instance of abuse, and it did not even have to be physical abuse, that they would have to find for Amber Heard, and they didn't.
And that's an excellent point. So really, when it comes time for this appeal, you look at what the decisions that the judge made. That's really what it comes down to. Or you can look at some other things, juror misconduct, for example. If they find out that one of the jurors was paid off, or if one of the jurors was looking at social media or doing something inappropriate that they shouldn't have been doing that had a direct impact on the trial, that could be a grounds for appeal. But here's the thing. What does the Court of Appeals look at? What is the remedy for the Court of Appeals? The Court of Appeals just says, okay, yeah, that was unfair, but it wouldn't have had an impact on the ultimate decision of the jury, so it was harmless error. That's one thing that the Court of Appeals could say. The Court of Appeals could also say, you know what, that was really unfair, and you violated the rules of evidence, Judge, and so we're going to let this go back because it was not harmless error, and we're going to order a new trial. The Court of Appeals could do that. Or the Court of Appeals could just look at the end result at the judgment and reduce the award if that's what if they argued that successfully. I don't think any of these things are likely. I think the most likely thing to happen is for this to be errors to be harmless errors, and they're going to uphold this verdict. That is my best guess.
How is she today? What is her next move?
She's right. Well, her next move is appeal.
Amber Heard's lawyer says she's ready to fight back following Johnny Depp's victory in his defamation trial against her.
Do you find that Mr. Depp has proven all the elements of defamation? Answer, yes.
Elaine Bredhoff told CBS Mornings that Heard has plans to appeal after the jury decided the actor was in fact defamed by her, awarding him $15 million in both punitive and compensatory damages.
And one of the first things that she said when she came back from the verdict, when we went into the conference room, was, "I am so sorry to all these women." She said that? Yes. She felt like she had let down all of these women, because she had more evidence than most people do, and yet they still didn't believe her.
She had more evidence than most people do. The Court of Appeals, if she does appeal to the Court of Appeals, she'll know that. I mean, she did. I mean, the judge was very equal on both sides and let both sides present whatever the heck they wanted.
It's a sentiment the actress echoed following the verdict in a statement she posted on Instagram, calling out her disappointment and feeling heartbroken. Quote, "The mountain of evidence still was not enough to stand up to the disproportionate power, influence, and sway of my ex-husband."
Okay. The thing about it is they're so flippin' tone deaf. This Elaine, come on. I mean, you won't see her again on another news program, because what she is doing is not only hurting herself, and her reputation, it's hurting her client. Because, and quite honestly, going on these programs, I think she's opening herself up to, number one, a defamation suit again, by talking about Johnny Depp as an abuser. One jury's already awarded $15 million, so it could happen against Elaine. The next thing, and then Amber, the mountain of evidence still was not enough to stand up to the disproportionate power, influence, and sway of my ex-husband. How about the fact that everything you said was fucking bullshit? How about they had witness after witness after witness to contradict everything you said, and you had almost nobody except for your sister to back your bullshit up?
I'm even more disappointed with what this verdict means for other women. It is a setback. It sets back the clock to a time when a woman who spoke up and spoke out could be publicly shamed and humiliated. It sets back the idea that violence against women is to be taken seriously.
Absolutely, it's supposed to be taken seriously. So is somebody's word. So is your word is your bond. She's bankrupted her bond. It really belies the fact that she has not told the truth in court.
Has Mr. Depp proven by a greater weight of the evidence that, question, the statement was made or published by Ms. Heard? Answer, yes.
Bredhoff says that evidence was suppressed during the 6-week trial held in Virginia, compared to a 2020 libel lawsuit against the UK's Sun newspaper, a case Depp lost.
So in the UK case, it is a completely set of laws that are different from the US. You have one finder of fact, which is the judge, and to have a judge rule in your favor on something, it's very difficult. If you have a difficult, complicated case, to have a judge as the fact finder.
And she believes in this most recent case, Depp's celebrity played a major role in the jury's decision.
But the other problem is we had cameras in the courtroom. So here we had, not only did we have a group of Depp fans that were there every day, 100 were allowed in. They lined up at 1 o'clock in the morning for their wristbands to be in that courtroom. But we had everything on camera, and we had tremendous social media.
Yeah, but you can cut both ways. That can cut both ways. And do you remember my very first video? My very first video on this topic. Where did I come down on this? I mean, I heard him talking about drugs, and I thought, oh my God, this is not going to be good for him. Why is he doing this? But as it played out, he became a very charming and likable guy. And she turned out to be kind of a vixen, kind of a liar. She didn't come off as sympathetic. And so Elaine's comments are just tone deaf.
Media that was very, very, very much against Amber.
It was pointed out that that was the first time that a victim of sexual abuse had to testify on live television.
And I fought hard and lost that battle. It should not have happened.
Bredhoff says the juror's verdict sends a message to all domestic abuse victims.
Amber had an enormous...
But here's the long and short of it. The case is won. Court of Appeals will not disturb a jury's verdict. They won't invade the province of the jury unless there is a serious error that would have affected the outcome of the trial. That's really what it comes down to. And so this is my prediction. She'll appeal, but it's going to go away. I mean, the case is won. And this is what Johnny Depp wanted all along. He didn't want necessarily to get millions of dollars from Amber Heard. He wanted to be able to tell his story, and he's won his case. And he's won his case in the court of public opinion. So we'll see what happens with this, but Elaine needs to just go take a little vacation and shut the fuck up. I mean, I hate to say that so harshly, but she's bordering on unethical behavior when she's bad-mouthing Johnny Depp and she said it wasn't fair, and it was fair. You know it was fair. We all know it was fair. So we'll see you next time here on Criminal Lawyer Reacts. This is Bruce Rivers, just kind of talking a little bit about Amber Heard and her chances at appeal. I think the damage is done. She should move on. I bet you Johnny Depp doesn't even try to collect. So this is Bruce Rivers. We'll see you next time here on Criminal Lawyer Reacts. Remember to subscribe, follow us on Instagram, follow us on Twitter, sign up for Patreon. We're doing some pretty good work there. And we'll see you next time. Spread the word. Stop self-snitching. Bruce Rivers, Criminal Lawyer Reacts. We'll see you next time.
Bruce Rivers, he's the criminal lawyer. Bruce Rivers, he's the criminal lawyer. Bruce Rivers, he's the criminal lawyer. And what he do? And it's gonna react to all the self-snitching.
Hi, this is Bruce Rivers. Welcome to another fun-filled episode of Criminal Lawyer Reacts. I'm Bruce Rivers, board-certified criminal defense lawyer, coming to you with my pearl-handled pistol cufflinks given to me by my proud content genius son, Michael Rivers. He's responsible for all this content. I just work here, man. Today we're going to talk a little bit about rap lyrics being used in criminal trial. Rappers are feeling targeted. But before we get to that, guess what? This episode is brought to you by eSign.com. eSign.com. Let's say you've got some fly lyrics and you are sitting in your basement and you can't get out because you got COVID. And the record label says you got to sign this today, otherwise, we're going to give this $10 million to somebody else. Well, you go to eSign.com, you download the app, and you sign the contract remotely. You get 3 signatures a month for free, and it's fantastic. It's a good way to get business done in a quick way. You can do it remote, so that's why we use eSign.com. I use it all the time on retainer agreements, so you can use it for any kind of agreement. eSign.com. Follow the link down below, get the app, and you'll see that it is the efficient way to do business. Now, we're going to talk a little bit today about Young Thug, who's on trial for the RICO case and a homicide that's embedded within that. One of the things that people are complaining about is that they think it's a violation of your First Amendment rights to include rap lyrics in songs, and it really has a chilling effect on creators. They're also saying that it is an unfair targeting of African Americans, and that there really is a double standard when it comes to other artists. Let's talk about the double standard for a second. If Willie Nelson, for example, sang about killing Johnny Cash, and you can match that up to him killing Johnny Cash, well, you know what? Those lyrics would be used in court. It's called self-snitching. But I agree, and in fact, I've successfully defended on my last homicide that I tried. I successfully defended keeping rap lyrics out of court. And the reason why this was a case where my client had created a rap video, and it was kind of a drill type video. And when he did this video, he's talking about, how he would respond to guns on the street. Well, what is that? What kind of evidence is that? That's bad character evidence. It's called 404. You cannot offer bad character evidence of the accused in a criminal trial first. So to the extent that it is bad character evidence, you can't do it. And that's how I was successful in keeping that out. Generally speaking, you can have character evidence of anybody or of a particular pertinent trait of the defendant, as offered by the defense. The only time you can offer evidence of character of the accused when you're a prosecutor is to rebut any kind of positive. So if I say Mr. Williams is a good family man, he's a good this kind of guy, you put all that stuff out there, then the prosecutor can use bad character evidence, and that's kind of what these rap songs are. However, there's another rule that kind of takes the place of the rule I just told you about. So when you look at the rules of evidence are the filter through which things come into court, right? And so when you have a statement of a party opponent, you got the state, you got Mr. Williams. So Mr. Williams is the party opponent. So if the state has a statement of the party opponent, they can use that against him if it's relevant and material. So it has to have some relationship. It can't just be that you can use any statement from anybody at any time. However, it's liberally applied. So if Mr. Williams had said, I rented that car, you know where you are, blah, 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 and he had some rap song about the specifics of that car, the prosecutor in Fulton County is going to try to get that in. Now, there's been some legislation, specifically in California, to try to keep these rap lyrics limited. And this is almost the exact test that I used when I successfully defended that murder case and keeping the rap lyrics out. So in any criminal proceeding where a party seeks to admit as evidence a form of creative expression, the court, while balancing the probative value of that evidence against the substantial danger of undue prejudice under Section 352, shall consider, in addition to all the other factors. So in most evidence, probative versus prejudicial. That's what you look at. Is this evidence going to lead to some facts that shed light on the entire case? Or is it so prejudicial that people are going to get confused, they'll be inflamed, that it's just bad character evidence? The statute tells you to look at the probative value of such expression for its literal truth or as truthful narrative is minimal unless expression is created near in time to the charged crime. So if it's created near in time, in my case, it was about 1.5 years before the homicide took place. So if it's created near in time, bears sufficient level of similarity to the crime or crimes charged, so it's got to be talking kind of about what the charges are, or includes factual detail not otherwise publicly available, in other words, self-snitching, and undue prejudice includes, but is not limited to, the possibility that the trier of fact will, in violation of Section 1101, treat the expression as evidence of the defendant's propensity for violence. Can't do that. Or general criminal disposition, as well as the possibility that the evidence will explicitly or implicitly inject racial bias into the proceedings. Let's break that down a little bit. So the intent of the legislation is to provide a framework by which courts can ensure that the use of an accused person's creative expression will not be used to introduce stereotypes or activate bias against the defendant, nor as character or propensity evidence, and to recognize that the rap lyrics and other creative expression or circumstantial evidence or motive of intent is not sufficient justification to overcome substantial evidence. In other words, got lily white housewives sitting on this jury, just using an example, and they don't listen to drill. And if all of a sudden you put this stuff in front of them, are they going to be so biased because of stereotypes or racial bias, or just so freaked out by the violence that's displayed, that they're going to say, oh, this is, that if he did it in his video, he's talking about really what he is likely to do on the street. It's called propensity evidence. That's inadmissible. You cannot use evidence to show that somebody acted in conformity therewith. In other words, just because they talked about it doesn't mean that you can use that now to show that they're likely to have done it because they talked about it. However, if it's close in time and there are specific factual details that are talking about what really happened.
Scott Kennard, they found his bones, he was right. Where's Corbin?
Where is Corbin Johnson?
Corbin ass was lost until they found him in that bag. Oh.
Corbin Johnson was last seen alive in July of last year. Then last Friday, a man discovered the victim's skeletal remains.
And that was created like right then and there. Then it probably comes in. But if it's so overwhelmingly prejudicial that, and that was my argument, because mine wasn't created close in time, and it was so over the top that it was just, a jury could convict just based upon him being a bad guy. And the prosecutor can't go forward with saying, oh, he's a bad guy, so therefore convict. Can't do it. It would get reversed in a minute. When you're talking about out-of-court statements generally are hearsay unless they fall within an exception. So hearsay is a declarant by A statement by a declarant out of court offered for what? For its truth. Okay, so that is the definition of hearsay. Now, when you have these rap lyrics, one could argue they're not offered for their truth. Well, then let's stipulate they're false. So hearsay is a statement by a declarant offered for its truth. It's an out-of-court statement, basically. A declarant is somebody who's going to be testifying in court. So, for example, I have a trial. I'm on trial for manslaughter. Let's say I ran over a child being drunk. And my son makes a statement out of court, but he's not available for trial. So his statement, whatever he said, oh, he did it, he pointing at me. He did it. And so they can't reach Michael because Michael's dodging a subpoena. And so they try to get that statement into court. Well, it can't come into court because it's an out-of-court statement. It's not under oath. It doesn't have sufficient indicia of reliability. That's kind of the catch-all phrase that we use in legalese. So Michael has to testify that he said that. Otherwise, it's hearsay. So he can't testify. The rap lyrics, the rap videos and the lyrics, they're powerful. It's theater. It's absolutely theater, right? But when they're talking about real events, and I think that's what this prosecutor was talking about. This prosecutor, Fannie Willis, the Fulton County prosecutor in the Thug case and other cases. I'll read you some of her quotes here. I think if you decide to admit your crimes over a beat, I'm going to use it, Willis told reporters at a conference. I'm going to continue to do that. People can continue to be angry about it. I have some legal advice. Don't confess to crimes on rap lyrics if you don't want them used, or at least get out of my county. You don't get to commit crimes in my county and then decide to brag on it. And that's what these things really are in some respects, because nothing happens if it's not posted on the internet. It didn't happen, right? You do not get to commit crimes in my county and then decide to brag on it, which you do as a form of intimidation, not to be held not be held responsible. So, like these diss tracks, going back and forth that you see, they are a form of communication, not just a form of music. They are a form of intimidation to show. They talk about ops. They talk about dead ops. They talk about stepping on people's graves and smoking on their ops. When you see these very, very callous and cold, they're really cold tracks. They can be used, but it has to be judicially looked at. I read you the statute in California. California does not, it just sets a framework up on how they're to be used. They're not saying that you can't use them as a prosecutor. So when you and it's always a balancing test, right? So prejudicial versus probative. But is there a double standard? I don't think there's a double standard because there's nothing else to compare it to. Is Mariah Carey, are they going to use Mariah Carey's lyrics against her? No, of course not. Why not? Because she talks about Christmas and whatever the fuck she talks about. There is no equivalent to the rap lyric, and it's really not all rap lyrics. It's primarily drill. Let's just keep that clear. It's primarily drill, and really a good lawyer should be able to keep it out because it is art. Unless it's talking about real events and talking about, you heard the judge, and I think we played that for you before, but, the judge read in the jury selection Thug's own words.
Hey, this is that slime shit. Hey, YSL shit. Hey, killing 12 shit. Hey, fuck a jail shit. Hey, cooking white brick.
But he's reading this stuff, and I don't know if they tried to litigate that ahead of time, but the actual songs themselves, they were using, the prosecutor was using in the indictment itself as an act in furtherance of their conspiracy. So one of the things, when you're doing jury selection, they read you the charges. And, there's like, 60 or 70 counts in that indictment. That should have been litigated ahead of time because, and maybe it was. I don't know if it was or not, but I would have filed a motion saying, look, they put this in their complaint. They put this in one of their acts in furtherance of the conspiracy. But we think it's so prejudicial. I mean, fuck the judge. That was one of the lines. Fuck the judge. How is that statement a statement in furtherance of the conspiracy? They're talking about the legal system. They're talking, to me, it's just so much more prejudicial than probative. And some of the other things that they talked about when he actually made those statements in court. When you have their attention and you're spitting those words out, they're hard to ignore, right? They're absolutely hard to ignore. I'm a defense lawyer, and I'm probably one of the few lawyers out there who've actually litigated this issue. And I argue hard to keep those lyrics out because they are so prejudicial. And it is art. And if it's not talking about a specific crime, all it is what? Propensity evidence. Trying to show that my client acted in conforming with some other prior behavior. You can't do that. A prosecutor can't do that. Let's just, if you talk about something else, like some other act the person does, and it has nothing to do with the case, the only purpose for that act, whether it's a song or whether it's an act that he did, it's just to show that he's done it before, so he's going to do it again. And that's just propensity evidence, and it's highly prejudicial, more prejudicial than probative, and that's kind of the standard. So look to that. I like the statute in California because the California sets up some guardrails so it doesn't have such a chilling effect on a creator, an artist. So this is just our 2 cents worth, just to give you kind of a legal framework on the issue of rap lyrics going into a criminal trial. So I'm Bruce Rivers. Make sure you sign up for Patreon. Follow us on Instagram. Follow us on Twitter. We'll see you next time here on Criminal Lawyer Reacts.
Bruce Rivers just broke down your case. He know all the charges that you about to face. You ain't coming home till 2058. That self-snitching gon' get you put away. Bruce Rivers just broke down your case. He know all the charges that you about to face. You ain't coming home till 2058. That self-snitching gon' get you put away. 23-hour lockdown, please just my God.
The word remorse, a deep regret, coming from a sense of guilt for past wrongs. That's not you.
To have the lack of insight into the gravity of what you just did. But somebody fucking lost their life. And they lost their life because you were reckless. You have one fucking job. Do your job. Make sure everybody stays alive.
They talk about how...
Okay, and here she is shaking her head and rolling her eyes. You think that's helpful? I don't think so.
Phone, she and another are talking about how much of Hannah's life they could take up and that this is messing up her modeling career.
Did you see her modeling career?
This is while she's incarcerated waiting for a sentence. And what does she say about the death of Helena? Hannah is dismissive of the judge talking about someone dying as a result of her actions.
In her most recent fucking jail call. Idiot! This is what we call self-snitching. Anytime you're in jail, guess what? Record. And that's just within the last fucking month. You disavow any kind of remorse on a jail call. How stupid is that? How you load a weapon that you're going to hand to somebody that he's going to point at the camera. How you don't check, double check, and triple check that you don't put a live round in there. And my understanding is she had the live rounds mixed with the dummy rounds.
Did she have enough time to load the weapon safely? Plenty. Did she load the weapon? Yes.
One of the things that you have when you go to trial and lose, you lose the ability to really ask for leniency.
I'm not looking at tables. It's because I'm reading. First of all, thank you for your presentations.
You think this judge has done a little too much Botox? Nothing moves on her, just barely her lips move.
And what does that mean in the scope of things and what has come before this court? And I'm asking...
When you have a presumptive prison sentence and you're convicted by a jury or whatever, at that moment they generally take you into custody, and that's why she's got just the beautiful beige scrub on with just something to keep her warm underneath.
You alone turned a safe weapon into a lethal weapon. But for you, Miss Hutchins would be alive, a husband would have his partner, and a little boy would have his mother. Please take her. You're hereby sentenced as follows. Stand. I am sentencing you to...
Bruce Rivers, he's the criminal lawyer. Bruce Rivers, he's the criminal lawyer. Bruce Rivers, he's the criminal lawyer. And what he do? And it's gonna react to all the self-snitching.
Hi, this is Bruce Rivers. Welcome to another fun-filled episode of Criminal Lawyer Reacts. I'm Bruce Rivers, your very own very personal, board-certified criminal defense lawyer. And I am coming to you today with my cufflinks, just right out of Dublin, Ireland. We are also coming with Michael Rivers, our content genius, the man behind the plan, the man behind the camera. And today we're reacting to the sentencing of Hannah Gutierrez Reed. Who was she? She was the armor on the set of Rust. But before we get to that, honestly, we talk a lot about my grandma, and I give her a lot of grief. And, the last episode I said she only had one leg. Well, she's got two legs. Okay, I misstated. But sometimes she uses those legs in a manner that we don't really approve of. Like she now just did a OnlyFans thing for her legs, going all the way up to her hip. You don't want to see that. You don't want to see that. So what do you have to do? You get power of attorney over your grandma and make sure that you collect the money that she's making. And she's making a ton of money on those Only Legs fans for her legs and they need to be ironed out a little bit, and how did I get that power of attorney? I went to eforms.com, and eforms.com is a very effective way to avoid, hiring a high-priced guy like me. And so, whether it's a power of attorney or a rental agreement, business agreement, a bill of sale, you sell somebody a car, and you don't do the bill of sale, how do you know that, your name's on all these tickets? And but if you had a bill of sale, you can go back, and if you call into court and say, no, I sold it to them on this day, they just didn't transfer the title. Whatever you need for a business or legal form, go to eforms.com. You will not be disappointed. That's what I would do. And so there you go. All right, so remember on the set of Rust, Hannah Gutierrez Reed was the armorer. And that means she was in charge of the firearm that Alec Baldwin used when he pointed it at the camera and shot Helena Hutchins. And she died, and also another guy got shot. She had a jury trial and lost. And here's what happens when you get a jury trial and lose. You don't get acceptance of responsibility. And when you don't get an acceptance of responsibility, you have in the business what we call a trial tax. Now let's watch the sentencing. She was charged with involuntary manslaughter, had a jury trial. She was convicted summarily. She's not looking at a ton of time in New Mexico, but it's still a felony on your record. And now, mind you, here's the procedure at sentencing. The prosecutor goes, they have witness impact, victim witness impact, and then the defense goes, and then the defendant has the last word. And the last word is called the right of what? Come on, you know what it is. Allocution, right. So let's just kind of watch the sentencing and see what the judge has to say about her sentencing.
And what does that mean in the scope of things, and what has come before this court? And I'm asking
Okay, she's not out of custody. When you have a presumptive prison sentence and you're convicted by a jury or whatever, at that moment they generally take you into custody, and that's why she's got just the beautiful beige scrub on with just something to keep her warm underneath.
For to consider that, and also what probation might do for her in terms of rehabilitation, which is another goal of our system.
So one of the things about probation is you could keep her on probation a lot longer than she's going to be in prison, because prison is only 18 months.
Anything else?
No, you're right.
All right, so I've made some notes along the way, so if I refer to the notes and I'm not looking at tables, it's because I'm reading. First of all, thank you for your presentations.
You think this judge has done a little too much Botox? Nothing moves on her, just barely her lips move.
The friends and family of Helena for presenting their memories and their losses of Helena. There are really three choices for sentencing before me. What the defense wants is a conditional discharge. This means straight probation, unless Ms. Gutierrez comes back on a probation violation. She won't have a felony conviction on her record, so she can continue to possess firearms.
So she's going through the first option, which is discharge. In other words, so there wouldn't be a felony on her record. Keep in mind, if she has a felony on her record for the balance of her life while that felony is in place, federally and statewide, she's not allowed to possess a firearm. One of the things that you have when you go to trial and lose, you lose the ability to really ask for leniency.
Firearms. Again, unless she comes back on a probation violation and receives the imposition of the probated sentence. The second one has not been offered by counsel, but I've certainly thought of it, and it's to continue her in the Santa Fe County Detention Center. That would be for 12 months. That's all she's allowed to stay at the detention center.
So you have a choice of prison or doing local time. If you do local time, you're not going to prison, and you can probably get work release. If you go to prison, you don't get work release. And usually there's an amount of time for good time as well.
And then put her on probation for the rest of the time. She's facing 18 months. She's got pre-sentence confinement for about a month or so. In this scenario, she won't experience prison. She will be a convicted felon. She cannot carry a firearm under federal law and for a specific time under New Mexico law. And then there's prison. And the state has proposed at 85% of the time sentenced to incarceration based on the serious violent offense statute. For all the fanfare and pundits and finger pointing that has been going on for over 2 years, we were able to seat a jury of her peers who confirmed they could listen to the evidence received in court and determine the facts and apply the law. They found Ms. Gutierrez guilty of involuntary manslaughter. What were some of the...
Now this is important. Now listen to this judge talk about, you've heard me, you saw our demonstration at the gun range.
And she says, and then I let go of the hammer of the gun and the gun goes off.
This is a replica of an 1873 Peacemaker. You can see it's not loaded right now. And the way you load it is you open this up. You have to go one cock like that. And now you can load it. Okay, you see that? We're going to load this up and we're going to fire it. And we're going to take an approach to this firearm similar to, and you analyze what Alec Baldwin says in his video. You got a little door right here, and you see that you have to cock it one click in order to load it. So then you load it like this. The armor had to load it similar to this. You have to load it, each bullet individually. It's not like a speed loader. So now, Alec Baldwin claimed that he pulled the trigger back and it just went. You can see by pulling the trigger back, there's a click. You cannot fire this gun. I'm pulling on the trigger right now and you cannot fire it. The first click is a safety. You pull it all the way back, it fires. One click, it doesn't fire. You pull it all the way back. Once you fire the weapon, the only way to make this spin, you got to put the safety back on. To unload it, you push it out like that. Spin it, push it. Spin it, push it. You have to be pretty deliberate to load and unload this firearm. You heard me talk about various facts. Let's see what the judge thinks are the highlights of the case. The important facts of the case.
In her police interview, she proudly owned her position as armorer. On October 21st, 2021, chaos ended after the film crew walked off. Ms. Hutchins and others were trying to rig, if you will, how they were going to keep filming. And what was the defendant doing while waiting? She was loading Alec Baldwin's gun. Did she have enough time to load the weapon safely? Plenty. Did she load the weapon? Yes. So one of the things that she's talking about is the deliberation, and when you have manslaughter, what is manslaughter? Manslaughter is the culpable, causing a death by culpable negligence, basically, gross negligence. So in other words, you're doing a dangerous activity, and one could argue that handling a gun like this is the most dangerous thing you can do. And you have to do it without circumspection. In other words, without a conscious regard for the risk that you're taking. And how you load a weapon
that you're going to hand to somebody that he's going to point at the camera, how you don't check, double check, and triple check that you don't put a live round in there. And my understanding is she had the live rounds mixed with the dummy rounds.
With dummies in a live round. Did she check what she was loading? No. Why? Well, in her own words, most recently, in her jail calls, she didn't need to be shaking the dummies all the time.
In her most recent fucking jail call. Idiot! This is what we call self-snitching. You know, anytime you're in jail, guess what? Record. And that's just within the last fucking month. That's because she's been in custody for about a month, she said. And so that's between the end of trial and now, instead of poor me, I really shouldn't have done this. Oh, I should have done this and this and this. I mean, the facts are what they are in this case. I mean, they're not like who did it. It's not like I was in Detroit. But then you disavow any kind of remorse, on a jail call. How stupid is that?
Did she check after that? No. And while you've heard her concerns about how she'll never work again as an armorer leading up to the trial, have her concerns changed? No. Here's what she says. This whole thing has been a character attack on her. Just recently, in her allocution, I'm not a monster.
In your allocution, where there are victims, you talk about yourself, you fucking lost. You've absolutely lost. You talk about the victims. You say, words can't express my grief over the loss and how my negligence caused that. I will, for the rest of my days, be thinking about what her life would have been like and had I not made the mistake that I made. That's the kind of shit you want to say.
And what does... where is it? They talk about how much...
Okay, and here she is shaking her head and rolling her eyes. You think that's helpful? I don't think so.
On the phone, she and another are talking about how much of Hannah's life they could take up, and that this is messing up her modeling career. This is what...
Did you see her modeling career?
While she's incarcerated, waiting for a sentence. And what does she say about the death of Helena? Hannah is dismissive of the judge talking about someone dying as a result of her actions. Hannah says she's looking at 13 months, which is ridiculous over what happened. Hannah says that people have accidents.
Do you realize she's looking at 18 months for causing the death of somebody? Do you know how little time that is in the broad scheme of things? And to have the lack of insight into the gravity of what you just did, she's been vilified in the press, no question about it. But somebody fucking lost their life, and they lost their life because you were reckless, because you didn't check. You have one fucking job. Do your job. Make sure everybody stays alive. That's it.
And people die. It's an unfortunate part of life, but it doesn't mean she should be in jail. A conditional discharge is not appropriate. And the second option of leaving you in the detention center would be giving you a pass you do not deserve. I did not hear you take accountability in your allocution. You said you were sorry. You were sorry, but not you were sorry for what you did. You were sorry for it and hope they can find peace. It was your attorney that had to tell the court that you were remorseful. The word remorse, a deep regret coming from a sense of guilt for past wrongs. That's not you.
When you're sitting there and you feel this freight train, you're the lawyer, right? Let's see, you're sitting there next to your client, and you feel this freight train of fuckery coming away at breakneck speed, and your client's right there, and there's nothing you can do. You can't push that train your client out of the way of that train, and you just have to sit there and take it. And what I would have done here is I would have written this shit out for her, because clearly she's young, probably stupid, because of the shit she's saying, and you know what's going to resonate with the court. Certainly, poor me, but you can't control what they say on the fucking telephone. As much as you try to counsel them and say, you're being recorded, don't talk on the telephone, it doesn't matter. They always do it.
You're hereby sentenced as follows. Stand. I am sentencing you to 18 months of incarceration at a New Mexico Women's Correctional Facility. I find that what you did constitutes a serious violent offense. It was committed in a physically violent manner, a fatal gunshot done with your recklessness in the face of knowledge that your acts were reasonably likely to result in serious harm. You were the armorer, the one that stood between a safe weapon and a weapon that could kill someone. You alone turned a safe weapon into a lethal weapon. But for you, Miss Hutchins would be alive, a husband would have his partner, and a little boy would have his mother. Please take her. I'm going to ask the deputies to watch how the courtroom gets cleared. Please do an order of remand to the transport order to the Department of Corrections and the judgment.
So, 18 months still is not that much fucking time. It just isn't. 85% of that is like, what, maybe 15 months? And then she's already got a month credit. So she'll do like maybe 14 months, just a little over a year. And then she won't be on any supervision after that. One of the things about probation is usually you can, if you give her probation, she can be on supervision longer. But her modeling career, now modeling prison scrubs, is well intact. So now, mind you, Alec Baldwin's trial is coming up in July. So we will follow that every day that I think it's going to be broadcast, if I'm not mistaken. So we'll follow that. And that's a different animal altogether. There's a superseding intervening cause there. What is that? That's the armorer. She's the one that loaded it. Could he reasonably have expected to have an unloaded gun? Absolutely he could. But remember what he said in one of his interviews. He didn't pull the trigger. Remember that? Well, that's going to come back and bite him in the ass. Everything he said in those interviews that's related to this, that is relevant, is going to come into evidence. And I bet you he doesn't testify. He'll want to testify, but there's no way that he can explain, away, unless he says, I was wrong. I thought about it now. Yeah, I did pull the trigger. And, it's going to come down to what the standard is. And he's also the producer of the movie. It's his baby. So the armorer is under his control. The set is under his control. And that's the part that you're going to see that the government is going to try to rest their case on. Not just that he was the actor. He's also the overriding producer and responsible for everything. So that's our little reaction to the Rust. Hannah Gutierrez-Reed. She's been found guilty by a jury of her peers. Judge did not like what she had to say. 18 months in prison, which for killing somebody, that ain't that long. We'll see you next time here on Criminal Lawyer Reacts. Make sure you subscribe. Follow us on Instagram. Follow us on Twitter. Sign up for Patreon, and we'll see you next time here on Criminal Lawyer Reacts.
Bruce Rivers just broke down your case. He know all the charges that you about to face. You ain't coming home till 2058. That self-snitching gon' get you put away. Bruce Rivers just broke down your case. He know all the charges that you about to face. You ain't coming home till 2058. That self-snitching gon' get you put away. 23-hour lockdown, please, is that my God?
Bruce Rivers, he's the criminal lawyer. Bruce Rivers, he's the criminal lawyer. Bruce Rivers, he's the criminal lawyer. And what he do? And he's gonna react to all the self-snitching.
Hi, this is Bruce Rivers. Welcome to another fun-filled episode of Criminal Lawyer Reacts. I'm Bruce Rivers, board-certified criminal defense lawyer, coming to you with my pearl handle pistol cufflinks, so graciously gifted to me by our content genius, Michael Rivers, who's behind the camera and behind everything I say and do, and I'm behind him with everything he does. because I support him. He's my boy. He's my son. Anyway, today's episode is brought to you by eSign.com. eSign.com is a very effective way to remotely do real business. Real business in the real world, not the fake world like Andrew Tate's real fake world. It's the real world. So, for example, if you have a power of attorney you need signed, you can do it by eSign. If you have any kind of document, a bill of sale, a rental agreement, anything you need to get done quickly. And you know what? Sometimes time is of the essence. And when time is of the essence, guess what? You don't have to meet in person. You can send them an agreement. They sign the agreement. The deal is done. You download the app. You get 3 free signatures a month. And I use it all the time for retainer agreements and for medical releases and power of attorney. I use it all the time to get documents. eSign.com, very effective way to remotely do business. So today's episode is about Andrew Tate and the fake world, real world, sorry. You know, here's the thing. I have not made any bones about whether I like Andrew Tate or not. Whether I like him or not is irrelevant because I really don't care for him. But I really dislike his message, you know, that you shouldn't get a job 9 to 5, you know, you should not fall into the trap of get rich quick. Guess what happens when you cut out the hard work? Guess what happens? You use shortcuts, you wind up not doing the things you need to do to make life solid. And when you're not doing that, you're falling into a trap of believing a snake oil salesman. And what do I mean by that? Well, anybody that has something that seems too good to be true, guess what? It probably is. And we're going to talk about that. And we're going to talk about 2 things. We're going to talk about what a Ponzi scheme is and what a pyramid scheme is.
Dude, that's actually insane.
I got another client just last month. That's what took me to 5K.
That's what took me to 5K. I made 5K last month. Guess how much 5K is a month? 60 grand. You know what? You can get a different kind of job for well over 60 grand.
Making 14,000, made 52,000 out of it.
Everybody in the real world is making money. The largest benefit to the real world is direct access to professors.
Professors. Are they real professors?
Taught by millionaires.
That answer your questions. They give you everything on a silver platter.
It may be impossible to not make money if you follow
It's impossible to not make money.
what they say.
So the real world really gave me a sense of brotherhood.
It's a community.
People.
Sense of brotherhood. Let's talk about that for a second. When you have young guys who are looking towards the future, guess what they are? The people who are following Andrew Tate are vulnerable guys. Every last one of them. Because guess what? If they had their own Bugatti, they wouldn't need his Bugatti. But they're vulnerable. And in this young community, it's a community. Community of what? You know, how did he make the bulk of his money? You know, he made it off the backs of women. You know, exposing themselves on OnlyFans or online sex rooms and whatever, and conning men into spending money. That's how they made their money. They're not providing an incredible service to the poor or to the needy or to the masses. They're just grab. We'll talk a little bit more about that, the underlying purpose of the organization in a second.
That are there for you
To help each other. We're all in there for one thing, and that's to make money.
You hear that last line? That line, we're only there for one thing, and that's to make money. If your sole purpose is to make money, you're empty. You're absolutely empty. If that's all you give a shit about is making money, you got to be balanced, as I see it. But just making money alone is an empty pursuit. And look at the amounts here. The amounts here aren't even that much.
The real world is now posted on their own platform and his own app now. Since downloading the real.
Oh, the real world's on an app. It's on a platform. It's on Google. It's on Apple. Oh, wait a second. No, it's not. It got pulled from Google and Apple.
Addicted to it. I can work comfortably out of my laptop and travel across the world.
Building your own business is very much like...
All right, I'm not going to play any more of that because he doesn't need more advertising of his stupid program. But one of the things they teach you about is multi-level marketing or affiliate marketing. You know what that is? That's a pyramid scheme. You know, if you have a business and the overriding driving force of the business is not the business itself, but it's recruiting people to get into the business, that's a pyramid scheme. to start that program, you pay $50 a month. And one of the driving forces is to get on TikTok. And, you guys have seen all these things on TikTok, on YouTube. And in these videos are highlights of, Tate's best moments, for lack of a better word. And then the pinned comment, is how to get into, or a link to the real world. But the issue here is, so they're trying to get you to get hooked. And one of the guys on here just says, I'm absolutely hooked. I'm addicted to this. The real issue, and this is why I think it's been taken down from Google and Apple, is they're targeting kids.
He's only 13, but he's already making $10K a month.
He's on to make over $15,000 as he's 15 years old.
16 years old.
He trains 7 days a week with aspirations of becoming a world-class boxer.
He just turned 6 years old and he wants to become a boxing champion just like Andrew is. He already has a six-pack.
They're targeting young kids, they're targeting young adults, and all men. Now keep in mind, when he was making money on OnlyFans and the webcams, he was making, $300,000-$400,000 a month or more. Now on this platform, he was making, I think at the height, I think they might have had, I read somewhere 220,000 subscribers at $50 a month. How much is that? That's over $1 million a month. But how is he making his money? He's not making his money any other legitimate way other than just conning the shit out of these people and selling them shit that they can get from pretty much anywhere else for free.
Presented with is just super basic. It's clearly aimed at beginners, particularly young people, and the problem with that is a lot of that basic information is available for free on the internet. You just have to know where to look, and a quick Google will actually tell you exactly what you need to know.
The real world is marketed as a global community of like-minded individuals striving to acquire an abundance of wealth. And this is created by Tate, the notorious British-American influencer, who, despite facing charges in Romania of rape, human trafficking, and forming an organized crime group to sexually exploit women, retains a large following among young men and boys worldwide. Guys. Now, I'm not asking for anything from you young guys. Honestly, I'm not. Just watch, and learn. But guess what? I wasn't the smartest guy in school by any stretch. And I'm not the smartest guy that walks into a room. But what I do have is drive, I have determination, and I have a sense of self-direction. I know where I want my life to go. I'm not going to let life happen to me. I'm going to make my life happen. And what has my philosophy been all along? What's the one word that I've used in almost every episode? Build. You can build on yourself. Get knowledge. Let's say you do this online course. Let's say you start to make a little bit of money. And all of a sudden, his thing goes downhill. And you were making your money on getting people into his program. Guess what? First of all, he is going down. But guess what happens? Then your way of life just all of a sudden collapses. And what do you have to fall back on? And now do I sound like a fucking dad? Why do I sound like a dad? Because I am a dad. And I'm worried about you guys. I'm worried about guys who think that there's a get-rich-quick scheme. There is a get-rich scheme, and guess what that is? Get some skills. Get some skills. Whether it be, and you don't have to go to college necessarily. If you do, and you become a doctor or a lawyer, or you become, whatever you want to become, an accountant or an engineer. But even if you don't do that, there's 1,000 different things you can do, and you can become somebody. Remember what I said, build on your relationships, build on your education, build on your financial future, build on every part of your life to create a balanced life. Not this bullshit about, one of the things that he talks about is the matrix and the 9 to 5, and you don't want to be part of that. You're either rich or you're broke. And that's such a false premise. It absolutely is. You find something you're good at it and make that your passion, whatever it is. I didn't find my passion for law until a little bit later. I didn't become a lawyer until I was 31. You realize that? That's kind of crazy when you think about it. Because I was in another career and had some family shit happen to me, and but I just kept at it. I kept at it and kept at it and kept at it. And guess what? Because I did that, because I became a lawyer and because I fucking became good at it, because I like what I do, and I really like helping people. I mean, I had three kind of phases in my professional life. I got out of college with a business degree, and I was a sales guy. I really hated that. But before that, I drove an ambulance, and I used to help people every day. I really loved that. I'm back to helping people on a regular basis, and I love, love, love that. But like I said, I wasn't the greatest student, but because I went along and did what I did, I tried a case a year ago. And on Tuesday, we're having a mediation on this case. Big, huge case. Young, very nice kid, was at work, burned, and we got a $35 million judgment. But because I did what I did, I put myself in a position to be able to take advantage of that opportunity. So I could be there for that guy, and now we're great friends, and he's just a fantastic guy, and we're hopefully going to put a bunch of money in his pocket because he deserves it. So you're helping somebody, and my fee is going to be substantial. I wouldn't have that opportunity. You know what? And the first time I applied to law school, did I get in? I didn't get in. But I kept at it. I kept at it. Part of the matrix. There's no fucking matrix. There's a world out there. A real world. Not the fake world that Andrew Tate's trying to sell. There's a real world out there. And if all you're doing is making money online and just you're just in your computer, if that's all you're doing, that's an empty existence. And I don't want to badmouth anybody else that's making money online, but if that's all you're doing, you're not helping people. You got to help people. That's just my own personal philosophy. The system, Matrix, wants you to remain poor, weak, alone, and complacent. Understand that in about 5 to 10 years' time, you will either be rich with unlimited money, which is just bullshit. Nobody has unlimited money, with unlimited options, or you will be broke, slaving for social credits. Do you want to escape or not? Bullshit. That is such a absolute farce. But that's a sales pitch, right, for his course. So I almost look at this episode as kind of a public service announcement, because look where he is. If you're going to follow his example, where the fuck is he? He's under the watchful eyes of the Romanian court, and he's looking. We're going to do an episode coming up on the indictment, and it's a huge indictment. It's like over 300 pages, or right around 300 pages, something like that, and it's insane. All the different shit that's listed in there is. It is a plethora of stuff. And if they can prove even half of it, see you later, Andrew Tate and Tristan Tate. So my advice to you is don't follow somebody who's on their way to prison. I don't think you can get any more simple than that. Everything about that course, everything about Andrew Tate for that matter, is all about the short money or fast money. And it's all like part of it's AI, doing as little work as possible. And I told you it was affiliated marketing. Now, Ponzi, you know what a Ponzi scheme? A Ponzi scheme is where I take your money and I say I'm going to invest it, and then I promise you a certain return. Now I pay you back, but I pay you back with somebody else's money, and it's just a shell game. You're just and this is really along those lines, and they're illegal. And so I want you guys to know that there is no shortcut. And guess what? If you decide on a profession, if you decide on, I decided on criminal defense. And I built over 25 years. And sometimes it wasn't fucking easy. Sometimes I had months where I was broke. And sometimes I was fine. But overall, it was a labor of love. And I have something solid that I can look back on now. Years worth of practice. I have stories. How many stories can you tell about being behind your fucking computer? Oh, I drop shipped this headphones that were $17.99 in China, and I got people to pay $49 for it here. What a bunch of idiots. Is that a great story? Or how about I'm sitting there 1 minute, my client's looking at 25 to life, and the next minute he's bawling his eyes out because I just saved his ass and he's walking away a free person. Or you talk about how you had this interaction and it's so tense in the courtroom and you think your client's going to beat the shit out of the prosecutor and you don't say anything about it. And all of a sudden he says, if it's a guilty verdict, I'm jumping over this table. I'm gonna whoop that prosecutor's ass. I mean, they make movies about this shit. You know what I mean? I'm in the fucking movie. I love it. I love it. Luckily for that prosecutor, it was an acquittal. And when you get an acquittal, I'm telling you, no online bullshit can match that feeling. That is just, you just walk out of there. All your hard work has paid off. You saved somebody's life. You know, I've had cases where my guy absolutely killed somebody. But, you know, it wasn't a matter whether he actually did it or not. It was, you know, legally. And the reward you get from helping somebody, and what I mean about that particular case, my client was helping escort somebody out of a bar, and the guy wriggled back because he was drunk, and the manager of the bar asked him to get him out, and he tried to punch my client in the head. He pushed him, and then he fell back and hit his head, you know, slipped on the ice, and it was 5 days later he died, right? So we had a trial on that. The prosecutor tried to say it was intentional murder, which was just absolute bullshit. It was all on video. Jury came back in less than a half hour, and they said they wanted to punch the prosecutor in the nose. I shit you not. And, you know, talking to this old codger who was on the jury, that's what I'm talking about. That's life. That's the real fucking world. Because I did the work I did in that case, he was still able to parent his kids. He kept his job on the railroad. He went to a Denver Broncos game the very next week after that, and he sends me a picture of he and his kids saying thank you. There is no greater reward than doing that good deed. I want you guys to learn about life and to know that there is no quick fix. Develop meaning in your life. You become an asset to everybody around you. If all you're doing is scamming people, which is what Andrew Tate fucking does, people know it, and they stay away from you. So, build. I guess that's my message for today. Build. Stay away from this kind of crap. There's a reason that Google and Apple took them off their platform. Of course they did. I mean, he's got a lot of people that, you know, are sucking each one of his balls. You know, I mean, I'm sure they don't even taste that good. They're gross. So, my point is, build, be a better person to everybody around you, and grab the fucking life. Just grab life by the balls and fucking go. Okay, I've said my piece. I'm very passionate about this because I want you guys to succeed, and succeed the right way, and not have to have anybody looking over your shoulder or whatever. So this is Bruce Rivers, criminal defense lawyer, board certified with our content genius, Michael Rivers, and our great sponsor, eSign.com. We'll see you next time here on Criminal Lawyer Reacts. Make sure you subscribe, follow us on Instagram, follow us on Twitter, sign up for Patreon. We'll see you next time here on Criminal Lawyer Reacts.
Bruce Rivers just broke down your case. He know all the charges that you about to face. You ain't coming home till 2058. That self-snitching gon' get you put away. Bruce Rivers just broke down your case. He know all the charges that you about to face. You ain't coming home till 2058. That self-snitching gon' get you put away.
23-hour lockdown, please, is that my God?